Recently, I had the opportunity to meet with a quality assurance and performance improvement team, a QAPI team, to discuss something that is very common and also very challenging in our industry in long-term care. And that's the subject of death and dying. And it is so common in our industry that we don't even call it death and dying. We have a different word for it. We call it an expiration, like so and so expired. Now, I'm not sure when or why we started to use the word expired as opposed to the words death or, like somebody passed away or died, but we use the word expired. Maybe it softens the blow for us as much as it might perhaps soften the blow for others. I'm not completely sure, but when we think about an expiration in a long-term care center, we typically focus on one aspect of it. And in this video, I'm going to talk to you about how we addressed a different aspect that perhaps many of us don't consider. And it's an important aspect, and that's talking about the actual customer involved, that is the family member. Now, at the same time, we could talk about, and we will to some extent, we will talk about the impact that an expiration has on the staff. There's an awful lot that can be talked about, should be talked about how expirations, I don't even know why I'm using the turn of phrase, how death and dying impacts our nursing, impacts our staff across the board. It can be quite challenging working in this industry in dealing with this. And so that's an aspect that we can look at. I'm not going to discuss that aspect in this video, but that is certainly something to discuss. And to take it even one step further, I got to say that if there's another opportunity for us to consider, and that is other residents. That when a resident moves into a nursing home or an assisted living, any kind of a senior care setting, they develop deep bonds and friendships, real friendships with other people that they meet in the nursing home. And so that's another thing that we have to, or we will, we will, me using the word should or can, how dare I, right? We will address that as well, because that is an important thing to consider as well, memorializing that person for the other residents who were their friends and confidants and, colleagues in this long-term care space. But what I want to focus on in this video is what we were talking about, and that is how to honor our customers who pass away, how to honor them and honor their family members. So taking it from a customer point of view, that is the family member, that is going to be the focus of this video. Of course, if this is the first time you're seeing me, my name is Ralph Peterson, and I am a quality assurance and performance improvement coach. And I help organizations tackle all kinds of issues when it comes to process performance. How do we do something? How do we make it better, faster, cheaper, have a bigger impact? And in this case, talking about something really, really important, and that is how we handle or how we can address this very difficult, challenging time, especially from a family member's point of view, losing a sacred bond, that loved one that they lose. And I got to say that before I get into it, that the way that we even started talking about this is quite ironically, we started talking about room changes, right? Like we started talking about room changes, and we ran into an issue where we are limited in beds in this organization, and they have a expiration, and they are waiting for the family members to come in and to remove their loved one's belongings before we can clean that room and turn it over for a new admission. And so we are looking at we are dangerously close. We're dangerously close at looking at this sacred transition of going from life to death, and we're dangerously close in this organization as looking at it from a turnover point of view. Like, can we get the room turned over so we can get a new person in there? And that's valid. It really is a valid question. It's a valid goal, because there are a lot of people who need care. I'm not judging that, but I did recognize that it didn't seem like we were taking any time to pause and to not only honor the person who has expired. I keep using that turn of phrase, it's kind of ingrained in me. Honoring that person who has expired, like we're not holding any sort of a memorial service or memorializing them in any way. And I kind of like, it's not sitting well with me. And we are putting out a second round of calls to the family member to try to light a little fire under their butt to come in and remove their loved one's belongings. And I just felt it was a little crass. And I was like, wait a minute. Okay, so I totally get it. I also get that I've been in this business for an awful long time, and I know that there are an awful lot of family members who do like to come in and gather their family, their loved ones' belongings. And I also know that when they do this gathering of loved ones' belongings, there oftentimes are a handful of things that they choose not to take with them. And mostly it's clothing items. They really want the pictures and the knickknacks and the heirlooms and that kind of thing. But usually the clothing can stay behind, and that's all well and good. And so from a nursing home administrative point of view, from an operational point of view, we don't want to make that decision for the family members. And so we're asking them to come in and make that decision. You tell us what it is that you want or don't want, and we'll take care of the stuff that you don't want. And in this case, the family members not shown up. It's been a few days. We give them 72 hours. I guess the policy here is 72 hours. And within 72 hours, if you don't come and get your family stuff, then we're going to box it up for you. And I just wondered, I started the conversation just asking, what if we changed the policy to, we'll just box up the family's belongings for them? Why make them come in and do that work? Why not have them come in and just pick up the belongings rather than decide, let them bring it home? I got to tell you, from a loss perspective, as a family member, I lost my dad a few years ago, and I was given all his belongings in boxes, and it took me a long time to go through those boxes, just because it was difficult. And when I finally did open the boxes, of course there was a lot of stuff in there, a lot of clothes, and I just kind of like, all right, let's just donate them or get rid of them. But I wanted the time to go through. I needed the time to go through it. I needed to leave them in my garage for a little bit to fester, like let them sit there for a minute while I get my thoughts about me. And it took me a little bit of time. So I understand the family member's perspective of going, you know what, not right this second. It's a little too soon for me to come in and start packing up my mom or dad's pictures and knickknacks and stuff like that. So I wonder if we took it one step further and said, instead of, hey, come in and decide what you want, what if we just box it up for you, put your name on it, it'll be here for you, we'll hold it for, maybe then you can put a timeline on it or even mail it to them. I mean, I know that would be an additional expense, but heirlooms, family belongings are important. And so as we're having this discussion on whether or not we should, and I'm just giving you the background. I know that I sometimes ramble. I always ramble, but I'm trying to give you the background of how we got to where we're getting to. And so we started to talk about what it's like to be a family member and what it's like to, get that notification and the phone call and, oh my gosh, and we're so sorry. And, and all of that. And it reminded me of two things. One, I worked in a home a couple of years ago, a nursing home a couple of years ago, and they had one of those card racks, one of those commercial card racks, which you go to like a grocery store or CVS or something, and you can go pick out a card. They had one of those actual card racks in their in one of their back offices for staff, and it was filled with sympathy cards. They also had birthday cards, they had thank you cards, they had a bunch of cards, but it was an awful lot of sympathy cards. And what they asked their staff to do is what I think is the most brilliant way to really honor your customers, both the customer that has expired and the customer who has lost that resident to the expiration. Boy, I don't know how I said that. But so they would ask their staff to come in and fill out. If somebody expired in their center, they would ask them, hey, come down, grab a sympathy card and write a note. We're going to send them in a little shoebox to the family member with all the family belongings. We're going to give them this shoebox full of sympathy cards. and send them off to the family member. And I remember at the time thinking how really amazing that is. Like, what a wonderful, thoughtful, beautiful send-off is to have the aides and the people who impacted or who were impacted by that resident's life, because we're all impacted by the residents, to send nice, sympathy cards to the family. I thought that was really brilliant. And then I had the opportunity to experience that box in real time. My father-in-law had dementia, and he was put into a senior care setting that had a lockdown dementia unit, and he was there for maybe 6 or 7 months, not terribly long. And his wife, my mother-in-law, was there every single day. She was there. She was one of those family members who we both come to love and maybe hate a little bit, because they're there we want family members to be involved all the time, and sometimes they can be a little much, there's always a little love hate. I don't know why I said that, but there it is. Not editing, nothing. I'm a one-shot video over here. Anyway, so I was telling my wife, Louise, about this. I was explaining about quality assurance, and I was talking about how this home was had all these sympathy cards. And my mother-in-law overheard me, and she said, I got one of those. And I was like, you got one of what? And she pulls out a shoebox full of sympathy cards from the nursing home that her husband, my father-in-law, was in. And she started to cry. As she opened up the box, she started to well up with tears. My wife started to well up with tears. I'm getting emotional right now just thinking about it. And she sat down and she said, it is her most prized possession, this shoebox full of sympathy cards. And she's like, look, there's a lot of them in here that are just signed by the staff. Like, it just says, we're sorry for your loss. And then, it's just a signature. She goes, and they're okay. I appreciate those. But she goes, my favorite ones are the ones that have like a long message where the aide takes the time to tell me something about Bob. That was his name. About Bob and how he smiled, or how they made them feel, and how much they enjoyed working with him, and how they really miss him. And those cards, the ones where the aides take the time to write 2, 3, 4 sentences in the card, that, my friend, is customer engagement. That is how you build a relationship with your customers, i.e. the family members. I hope you found this video helpful. I've been wanting to talk about it for a long time. I'll do a video on the other 2 impacted people in this situation when it comes to staff members. That is a really, really big and important quality assurance conversation to have. And that is how do you prepare your staff, especially your brand new staff that just came in, just started working, just got their CNA license, or just just took a job in any kind of form or fashion, but they're going to have that one-on-one interaction with somebody who is at the end of their life. How do you have that conversation? What do you do to prepare your staff for that? And how do you memorialize? How do you memorialize those residents that we lose on a pretty consistent basis? And then how do we memorialize them for their friends and their colleagues and their neighbors in the long-term care center too? That's a really important, it's an important thing to drill down into as well. All right, that's it. I hope you found this helpful. If there's anything I can do to help you with your quality award program, your quality assurance and performance improvement program, if you're not going for a quality award through the American Healthcare Association, I don't know what you're doing. Get on the quality award bandwagon. It is the #1 best. This is where that question comes from. This question, how do you build relationships with your customers, with your residents, with your family members, with your staff, with your vendors? That question comes from section 3.2. 3.2a is, how do you build relationships with your customers? It is my favorite question to ask. It is my favorite question to explore. And if you want more content like this, please remember to like, share, subscribe, follow me, reach out to me. I'd love to hear from you. See you later.